Welcome to another DevasiaMentality review. Today is going to be beginning what I am hoping will be a week worth of Fansproject reviews. I'm going to be looking first today, if it wasn't obvious from my preview earlier, the Fansproject TFX-01 City Commander TF Parallax. And as you can see, this is the 2008 version that I'm going to be reviewing. If you can read this, seek help. Out of the box, it comes packed in a clamshell, or, you know, it would come packed in a clamshell if I hadn't had this one out for the past couple of years. I should mention there's this stuff inside the box, like drawings of the Commander Parallax thing. And here's the armor as you will receive it right out of the package, more or less. It's a block. What else can I say? It's an interestingly designed block with all these panel lines, a stripe detail that goes that far, stops, goes down, and goes to there. Where at the front you will see empty spaces. Yeah, I don't understand it. And some red! Look at that! There's some actual red on this thing. Okay, there's some red on the back as well, but whatever. Interestingly, this thing does open up to very little effect. I mean, I'm not quite sure what all you could fit in there. Maybe some missile pods that come with an upgrade set, but even then they probably won't stay in there. So, and he has a bumper sticker thing. Yeah. But you can get rid of that if you don't care for it. Apart from being a block, it does go on to the back of something. Yeah, Ultra Magnus with his trailer. It doesn't look very wieldy, does it? I mean, the trailer is so close up against the back of his cab section that you really don't know exactly how you could actually end up steering this thing without it, you know, just sliding. And actually, that is the way it works, because that's the way it's connected. I guess the paint scheme kind of flows very nice, because, you know, you've got this big sea of blue that runs up here and all across the side of the cab, with the silver stripe that goes along here with the white in the middle. It's the same all the way back here, all the way to the back. It's just pretty neat. Before I go on to robot mode, one thing I should note are these spokes right here. Is that actually, while Ultra Magnus actually has all the holes in his spokes on his wheels, not all the actual spokes on the trailer actually go all the way through, as you can see. Yeah. These ones I actually filled in with little sticker details, so it kind of looks like they're there, but, you know, in the right lighting conditions, like the one you see now, it's plainly obvious. Overall, it's kind of hard to take seriously like this. It's just a big block. But it does something else, you know. After transforming your Ultra Magnus into White Optimus mode and breaking your Fansproject set to tiny little pieces all over the place, you can rearrange all those parts you broke and create something completely different. And now you have something that looks a little less like a white Optimus surrounded by pointless kibbly bits, and something that looks more like your good old Ultra Magnus. I guess a few words I should have on the transformation and conversion before I get on to anything else. First of all, a common complaint and fear on this mold would be the leg add-ons. Admittedly, yes, it is very scary, because in order to fit the leg in there, you have to do a lot of finicky, crunchy stuff. Given the amount of time I've had this thing, coupled with how flexible the plastic seems to be, I no longer fear that this is actually going to be something that may break in future. I've seen no stress marks, and as far as I can tell, the only things that might get actually damaged over time would be tiny little scrapes on the actual leg panels, and I don't think anyone's going to mind that too much. I've never been entirely certain of exactly what friction holds the crotch plate on. If you figure it out, that's something you may want to look out for, since... Actually, no, he doesn't have a painted crotch, so whatever. The arms are a fairly simple connection once you get everything aligned just correctly. But I found on other versions of this set that it's quite possible that putting these gauntlet parts on over the arms Ultra Magnus already has, it might cause some paint chipping on these painted areas that go around Ultra Magnus's arm onto that big Ghibli bit here. The chest part is also something that you have to finesse with a bit first time you get it on, and of course it has to be the first thing that you put on before the shoulders. One thing to note about having put that thing on is that the best way to get everything, you know, working just right is that when you fold the actual Magnus head down inside underneath that part, it's best to turn it around first, then fold it down. Another thing is the alignment of this piece of thing here. It's best to keep it down at least this low, so it doesn't interfere too much with the movement on this axis, because it does bulk up his shoulders a lot putting these bits on here. The head, on the other hand, is something that I am actually going to have great warnings about. This thing was advertised with a ball-jointed head, and yes, it does have one. Sort of. I can get this thing to move now, but back when I first got this kit, I actually snapped the neck joint off inside this bit of armor here. So I had to go to BBTS asking them if they could replace it, because I figured I had a faulty piece because the ball was jammed. When I got the replacement piece, it kind of seemed like the same problem occurred, but at least I could get his head to turn laterally. Though eventually I did manage to get the ball to loosen up enough so that I can get him to do all sorts of things. Sort of. But it is still a tight joint, and I would recommend extreme caution when handling it. All that aside, you have a very nice looking Magnus-like robot. He doesn't look exactly like any form of Magnus that has come before him, but that's kind of the point. This is Fansproject we're talking about. They couldn't necessarily use any exact design that Ultra Magnus had before, because Fansproject is a third-party company. It has no association with Hasbro or Takara Tomy whatsoever. So they can't use any of Hasbro or Takara's exact visions. That said, it's not bad. I mean, it probably looks better than most Magnuses you've seen, and even bulkier and meaner looking. Look at that face. Sure, it doesn't look like your good old G1 Ultra Magnus, but it does look pretty sleek and pretty angry looking. This is the stuff you cut out. Ultra Magnus's default weapons can fit on his back or the back of his shoulders. This one fits a little bit more securely than this one ever will, well, depending on how you work with friction. And ultimately, while you can display him wielding those weapons, the default thing you're probably going to be wanting to display him with is this, the BFG, which is actually quite a big chunk of his trailer folded up in on itself and placed in his hand. Admittedly, it's probably not the most favorite part about this set. In fact, I would say it's probably a big detriment, most people would think. But I like it. It has like 8 missile tubes in the front, and if you fold it down, you get these 6 nondescript barrels of doom right in the front, and it just looks like he's holding a gigantic magnum. Unfortunately, you can't really hold it up. Mind you, that's probably just this version of the mold. His arms kind of weaker than several other versions of the Optimus Prime Classics mold. And in fact, this thing's hinge doesn't like to hold it up either, so this has been the Fansproject City Commander. Stay tuned, there's more Fansproject to come.